Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. I'm going to bring you more stories today about the state of the planet. Right here, currently in Los Angeles, it's quite warm, and it's going to remain so through the week. Starting to be the season when at least my plants get burned to a crisp from the sun. Whatever is going on, whether it's higher UV or just higher temperatures, there are many factors, of course, that people like to, bring into the conversation about what's happening with the sun or the heat, the amount of UV or how hot the sun feels. I can tell you my plants just absolutely wilt and disintegrate when we have full sun going on and not a cloud in the sky or contrails in the sky right now. Anyways, yeah, quite warm today, and it's time for me to invest in a hoop house or some kind of greenhouse situation because my plants just aren't faring well in the regular weather. It's just not happening. So let's go to this story, which is all over the news right now. There's Tropical Storm Barry starts to hit the Gulf Coast, ramping up, heading towards New Orleans, or New Orleans, whichever way you like to say it. This is from today, 2019, updated at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Tropical Storm Barry is beginning to take a toll on the central Gulf Coast, bringing high winds and heavy rains to parts of southeastern Louisiana, where residents have been preparing to cope with flooding and power outages. As Barry slowly approached land, an oil rig southwest of the mouth of Mississippi River reported sustained winds of 76 miles per hour and a wind gust of 87 miles per hour, the National Hurricane Center said Friday. In New Orleans, officials are telling residents to get off the streets and be ready to shelter in place by 8 p.m. local time. This is a life-threatening situation, the Hurricane Center says, noting the storm surge could bring 3 to 6 feet of water inland to an area from the mouth of the Atchafalaya River, some 60 miles south of Baton Rouge, to Shell Beach, 20 miles southeast of New Orleans. Slightly smaller surge is predicted for other areas from Lake Pontchartrain to Biloxi, Mississippi, but officials are also closely monitoring river levels, concerned that heavy rains could bring deadly flooding. At least 6 regional rivers are expected to have moderate to major flooding, according to the National Weather Service office in New Orleans. So New Orleans was just flooded a few days ago from heavy rainfall. Not necessarily storm surge, but they have already been experiencing flood situation in New Orleans proper, and it looks like Baton Rouge is set to get hit with some more flooding. They've suffered a few major floods in the last couple of years. Barry is expected to produce total rain accumulations of 10 to 20 inches over southeast Louisiana and southwest Mississippi. There's the trajectory there. So I'm going to link this below. You guys can check out this article if you are in the area. Take shelter, leave the place, whatever you got to do. Quite a few people have been talking about ice extent, ice volume. Right now I'm on the National Snow and Ice Data Center. I'm going to read a little of this for you. July 2nd, 2019. Melt season shifts into high gear. After a period of slow ice loss in the middle of June, Arctic sea ice loss ramped up. An extent at the end of the month fell below 2012, the year which ended up with the lowest September ice extent in the satellite record. A pattern of atmospheric circulation favored ice loss this June, which was also characterized by above-average temperatures over most of the Arctic Ocean and especially in the Laptev and East Siberian seas. Arctic sea ice extent for June averaged 10.53 million square kilometers, or 4.07 million square miles. This is 1.23 million square kilometers below the 1981 to 2010 average, and 120,000 square kilometers above the previous June record. Previous June record low set in 2016. Extent at the end of the month remained well below average on the Pacific side of the Arctic, with open water extending from the Bering Strait, and along the coasts of the Chukchi and Beaufort Seas all the way, or Beaufort, however you like to say it, all the way to Melville Island in the Canadian Arctic archipelago. Sea surface temperatures in the open waters have been unusually high, up to 5 degrees Celsius. That's a lot of Celsius above average in the Chukchi Sea, as indicated by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Extent over the first 10 days of the month dropped quickly, but then the loss rate suddenly slowed. From June 12th to June 16th, extent remained almost constant at 10.8 million square kilometers. Following this hiatus, extent then dropped fairly quickly through the remainder of the month. Overall, sea ice retreated almost everywhere in the Arctic in June. Exceptions included the northern East Greenland Sea, southeast of Svalbard, near Franz Josef Land, and in the southeastern part of the Beaufort Sea, where the ice edge expanded slightly. Let's look at this graph. Here's 2012. So we have been below the 2012 average. In fact, the last few years have been below the 2012 average through March, April, May, when 2012 took a dip. So here is, it's hard to see 2019 is basically right on the money with 2012. Very, very close to it. Considering that the ice thickness and the ice volume is much lower than it was in 2012. I showed you guys a graph of that last week. Does not bode well for this melt season. And more graphs. There was another one I wanted to look at. Where is it? Oh, this one. Right here. Oh, so this gives you a little closer look. This is 2012, and here we are, 2019, right below the 2012. We are right now in tandem with 2012 melt, looks like. I'm going to link this below, and you guys can check that out for yourself. But as many of you have been following sea ice extent closely, many of you are aware of this. And let's finish this up with something from Prince Charles. We have 18 months to save the world, Prince Charles warns Commonwealth leaders. And this is from July 11th, 2019, from The Telegraph. The Prince of Wales has warned global leaders they have 18 critical months to solve climate change and restore the balance of nature, ensuring the survival of the human race. Let's restore the balance of nature in 18 months. The Prince, addressing foreign ministers from around the Commonwealth, said they were uniquely positioned to lead the world by example, urging them to match ambition with the practical action that is required. Speaking as the future head of the Commonwealth, a position which was confirmed during a convention in London last year, he emphasized that the next 18 months would see critical meetings that will collectively determine the global agenda for the coming decade. The leaders of the Commonwealth countries will gather next year in Rwanda for a week-long summit at which they will discuss the unparalleled challenges caused by rapid climate change and biodiversity loss. In a speech during a reception at Clarence House, the Prince said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am firmly of the view that the next 18 months will decide our ability to keep climate change to survivable levels and to restore nature to the equilibrium we need for our survival." Okay. What does that even mean, 18 months? We're not going to turn anything around in 18 months. The best scenario we can hope for in 18 months is that there is a mass awakening, that governments and media start telling the truth, that the overwhelming din of the situation, the emergency situation of climate change just becomes so huge, that there is a massive consciousness shift and people suddenly go, uh-oh, let's do something. That is the best we can hope for in 18 months. We're not going to really turn any type of Titanic around in that time. That's just not going to happen. We can make a start. We can lay the groundwork. We could, make some plans. We can discuss possible options for the future. That's about it. But, I welcome Prince Charles sounding the warning bell. We need more people with more visibility bringing this attention to light. Does it make a difference? So far, Magic 8 Ball says not likely, but it's good to try, right? That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.